Hi all, very good afternoon and welcome to the webinar. I am Nilesh and I head the pre-sales at pCloudy. I'll be your host today for today's webinar, and the topic of today's webinar is what's new in pCloudy 5.1. The webinar is scheduled for 1 hour and typically I'll be covering the topic in 45 to 50 minutes, and last 10 to 15 minutes will be available for Q&A. So please use the questions tab on your GoToWebinar window to raise your questions if you have any, and I'll be able to answer those questions towards the end of this session. We certainly want to make this as an interactive session, but since we have certain limitations here, so you can still raise your questions and I'll be taking those questions towards the end. All right, so let's move on to the agenda for today's webinar. Today's agenda here is a very short and sweet agenda we have for the webinar, and typically we'll be going to see the introduction about pCloudy. I'm sure the participants today must be users of pCloudy, and for them it makes more sense because they know what exactly we have at pCloudy and what are the delta part which as a part of 5.1 we are releasing. But if there are certain new customers, new participants who have not yet registered with pCloudy, for their benefit we will just quickly see the introduction, and later we'll see what are all promising features we have released in 5.1. We have quite a few. I don't want to list those right now here. We'll see that as a surprise, and towards the end we will have Q&A. So let's quickly see what we do at pCloudy. What is pCloudy is all about. So pCloudy is basically a device cloud. It's a remote mobile device cloud test platform on which one can do automation testing, manual testing, and you get a whole lot of value-added services when you are doing normal functional testing on these devices. So let's see what exactly we have, what are all applications you can test it on this platform. You can test all kind of applications, including native application, hybrid application, mobile web, and of course PWA application, which is the next thing which is happening in the market. Four things which you can do it on this platform is, of course, you get the device analytics for the right set of devices, what devices you should be using for a specific region. Those kind of information you can get it from here. You can do manual testing certainly on this platform, and of course you can run test automations by executing your test cases on multiple devices parallelly. And the last thing which we support here is in-field UX testing. So in case you have a requirement where you have to test your application in the field by the real users in the real field, you can actually use pCloudy, and pCloudy do have that support in the platform. Now, typically, if you see the users, the test engineers primarily uses pCloudy through a web interface that is from any standard web browser. But there is one more way we can use pCloudy, and that is through plugins. So we do have plugins available for Android Studio, Xcode, and you can use this platform from these plugins, using these plugins. Now, there are three offerings which we have at pCloudy. The first one is public cloud, which is the most popular one, and any customer across the globe can access this public cloud. So we have 500 plus real devices available on public cloud. We have real operator SIMs, real cellular network in the real devices, so you can use those networks to test your application. And of course, we have three different locations where our data centers are located, namely India, US, and Australia. The second offering which we have is private cloud, which is basically an extension of public cloud, which is maintained by us in our own state-of-the-art data centers, where clients can connect a request to connect specific devices, and those devices will be dedicatedly available for those clients, and devices can be accessed 24/7. And this particular private cloud will not be accessible by any other customers. It will be accessible only by the customer who is opting for this. The last offering which we have is on-premise cloud. So this is the cloud. It is a further extension of private cloud. It's pretty similar to private cloud, but the only difference is this particular cloud will be hosted in your premises behind your firewall, and you can connect whatever devices you have invested in to this particular cloud and create your own remote lab. So we will be coming with our own cloud infrastructure. We'll set it up those labs for you within your firewall. So these are the three different offerings we have. uh, okay, so let's move on to the next slide just to see what exactly we have today in the store for all of you. So we have a couple of features released in 5.1, and the first and foremost is instrumenting an iOS app for Touch ID. So if you have any application, iOS application, where you have to test the touch gestures, by giving the Touch ID, by giving your biometric, only the application can proceed further. Those kind of applications, now you can start testing with pCloudy. We do have that in the store now. The second feature which we have released as a part of 5.1 is simpler and faster Appium pCloudy integration. Those who are already using pCloudy and using automation, they are aware that there is a small integration efforts required to integrate your existing code with pCloudy so that it can run on the pCloudy devices parallelly. Uh, with this feature now, the integration efforts, whatever you have put in so far, is actually reduced. We have made it much simpler. With a small piece of code, now you can integrate your existing test framework with pCloudy and execute your test cases on the cloud. The third is the integration with Slack. We'll be seeing more about this, why we have added and what are the advantages of this when we'll be seeing the live view, live demo. The next one is simple cross-browser testing. So we do have a cross-browser testing support in this feature, and we'll be seeing more about this uh, in the demonstration in a while. And the last thing which we have in 5.1 is faster upload of the app. So you know that you have to actually upload your applications which are under test to the cloud, right? So that typically was consuming X amount of time. So we have made an improvement here, and we have expedited that speed, and we are achieved close to 40 to 45% of improvement in that. So we are going to see that in a while now. So we will just move on to the first feature which I wanted to demonstrate here is about Appium integration architecture, right? So we have redefined the architecture in such a way that now it's a truly plug and play uh, feature. So if you have any of your Appium test cases already created, and if you want to integrate that with the pCloudy, it's pretty simple now. It's pretty simple. We're going to see that. I'll be showing you a piece of code, what exactly you need to make a change there, right? So let's see what exactly we had in the older version of Appium architecture, and what are all things we were supposed to do it there. So the first and foremost was it was demanded use of APIs. So we do have a lot of APIs. REST APIs are already exposed to the customers. So you can still use, earlier also you were able to use a lot of APIs. Now also you can use the APIs, but as a part of integration, you were supposed to, or you were rather forced to use a lot of APIs, which may not be more meaningful to you at the time of integration. So this is what we were having earlier. The second challenge, or the limitation we had, was there was a lot of changes we were supposed to make in the existing code, typically in the driver part. And you certainly needed some level of expertise to change those code, understand the code, where to make the changes and all that. So these were some of the limitations, or I'll say the efforts which we were supposed to do at the time of integration. So we have actually made it pretty simple. We have made it simple, and what exactly we have got in new architecture is you don't have to call any APIs, at least at the time of integration. After the integration from your script, if you need a specific data from pCloudy, then in that case you can very well call the APIs. But certainly for the integration purpose, you do not have to call any APIs. You just need to set the desired capabilities. Now, this is the most simplest part, because desired capabilities is something which every test automation engineer will understand when he's working with Appium, that he has to keep changing it as and when they change the device, as and when they change the test cases, or as and when they change the platform. So this is the only change which you have to do it, to integrate closely and quickly with the pCloudy. And because of this changes, since we are not calling APIs and only desired capabilities we are adding, we have a very small piece of code which you have to change, which I'm going to demonstrate you now. And it's far lesser time, so you can actually achieve it in a jiffy. You don't have to really spend a lot of time here to do the integration. So these are the things which we are going to see it here. So we will see this particular part in the action. I'll just quickly show you the uh, code here. So just excuse me for a moment, because I have to move my screen from that to the monitor one, and I hope you can see my uh, workspace in the Eclipse now, right? So I'll just do 1 second. All right, so we do have sample projects available at pCloudy's GitHub location, which most of you are aware. And if you're not, you can just put a search at the support.pcloudy.com and you will get the location. So we have created new samples available in the GitHub. Maybe I can quickly show you that part here. Uh, so you can go to this link, which is github.com and slash so and so, and you come here and go to the Java part. In the Java, we have new Appium sample project. So far, you would have actually taken something from the advanced, right? So now you have to take it from new Appium sample projects, and we have got quite a few, 6 different projects for Android, iOS, and the iOS browsers, right? So you can go and choose any one of those. So I have downloaded all these projects on my in my workspace, and I'll be showcasing you this chapter 2. So I'm just coming here, and this is the chapter 2. So I'm just expanding this project now and opening the source. Sorry, I'm just opening the source and going to runner.java. Now, those who are writing the automation test scripts will understand this code very quickly. And you can see this runner.java is typically the uh, driver for your test engine environment, right? For your Appium test engine environment. So if you have already written certain drivers there, okay, what are all changes you'll have to do it? So you must be having your own driver. Now, this is the piece of code. If you see it from line number 36 perhaps to 55, right? This is a small piece of code which you have to add in your driver code, just to make sure that you are setting the right capabilities, right? So we are actually using certain parameters called parameters, passing device name, which we are setting it when testing.xml. I'll show you that part there. And then we are calling before method, or you can call before method or before test uh, uh, annotation here. And this particular method, which says prepare test, actually will prepare your driver, prepare your environment to execute your test cases on pCloudy. So these are some of the capabilities which you have to set it there. I'll not certainly go through each and every capability here, but typically the first one is basically I'm sending my username and password API keys. So you'll have to provide your own username, registered username with pCloudy, and the password API access key, your application name, your duration, for how long you want to book the device for, and then you pass device manufacturer here, the parameter which we have just passed through this parameters part. And in case you want your application, your device to be um, specific or certain OS versions, when you want to execute those, you can actually use this capability. Instead of device manufacturer, you can say pCloudy device version, and you just select whatever device version. So it will go and choose any device which has this specific OS version. Or you can also opt for providing the complete device name which you are explicitly looking for, right? So we have gone ahead with the device manufacturer here, and then we said set capabilities, the new command timeout, launch timeout. We are providing the package name and activity. So these are some things which anyways most of you are pretty much aware. The last thing is we are creating a driver, and it's an Android driver. So this project is for Android, so you can call Android driver. If you want to do it for iOS, you can say iOS driver. And this is the static URL for the hub. You can provide this, which is already there in the sample project, and you pass the capabilities. That's the small piece of code which you have to make change in your existing code, and then you can write your own test cases. So we have, for the sake of simplicity, we have written the test case here itself. You can always opt to write test cases in different files if at all you want it. Now we are actually capturing a screenshot here. You can see here a method called capture screenshots. This we have written it here in case you want to use our method. You can actually take this particular piece of code. If you are having your own mechanism to capture the screenshots, you can always ignore this part. So this is not pretty much mandatory. But to run this sample project, of course, it has to be here. Now, if you don't notice, there is something called after method. In this, we are calling driver.quit. So this is pretty much important, and this also you'll have to make a change in your code, because this quit will actually release the API. So the moment you release the device, so the moment your testing is done on a specific device, let's say you are doing it on 3 different devices, and one of the device, because of certain issues, the script is crashed, or the application is crashed, and the test suite got over before the predefined time. Maybe you are booking it for 30 minutes, right? And your scripts crashed at fifth minute itself. So you certainly do not want to waste your time for next 25 minutes. So automatically this particular method will be called there, and we will be releasing the device. So this release API and all are internally called within this particular method here. So you don't have to really call those APIs from here, but this is pretty much important. Okay, so this is a small piece of code which I was mentioning. You have to make change in your existing code. The second part here is about uh, sorry, the testing .xml, right? So in the testing.xml, you can actually the one which is already here, right? So I've just opened it here. Here you will have to make a small change. So the change is typically the parameters which we were expecting in runner.java, we are actually passing it on through here. So we are passing the parameter name as device name, and I said Samsung, value as Samsung. So it will go and choose any Samsung device. Then this is one test. The second test is I'm going and looking for any Google device, right? And since I have only single class where I have written the test case, I'm just providing one single class. So if you are having multiple classes, you can actually ask those. You can configure it from here that you want to run 2 classes on one device, rest of the 2 classes on second device. You can actually do that part here. So this is pretty simple and straightforward now. Maybe I can quickly run this code and just show you how to see this. So I'm just saying run as test ng suite, and you can start seeing the progress here in the console. At the same time, as most of you are aware that we have a feature called live view. So I'm just logging into my pCloudy account with my credentials, and if I go to the reports folder, you can actually, in the my active session, you can start seeing the sessions which we have just started from Eclipse. So it is starting now. Yeah, so the sessions are already started. If I just open this, you can see I have captured one Galaxy Samsung device and one Google device. So it has opened. So you can actually see the execution happening on these remote devices uh, uh, remotely, right? And you can also track this, so you can actually see where I'm doing the right testing there or not. If some unwanted things are coming, you can actually handle those through your scripts. So this way you are actually able to run the test execution, of course, and we have seen the integration part quickly there. So in the interest of time, I will not wait till the execution get over. I believe most of you are using automation part on pCloudy, so you you are pretty much aware of that. So yeah, I think yeah, the execution is also got over here. Right, so you can actually go to the reports folder, again go to the all reports, and you can open the individual reports. So now we are creating the individual reports for each session, I mean each device which you have executed your testing on. So let's say Samsung is what we have seen. So I can just go and view the report from here. This is how the report will be shown to you. And if I click on the uh, device name, you will be taken to this in much more detail. You can see the memory information, battery information, CPU information, and snapshots if you are capturing. Okay, we have not captured anything there. In the logs, okay, the snapshots are typically not here. It will be on your local system, and these are the logs. You can get the entire device logs, Appium logs, and Appium standard error logs, and towards the end you can also get the video for the entire session. So this way you can see the reports for the automation. All right, so I think we have seen the integration part here. I'm sure some of you must be having a couple of questions on this, and I'll be taking those towards the end of the session. So now we will move on to the uh, PPT part to see what exactly we have next in our store. Okay, so the next one is cross-browser testing. Now, let's see what are the challenges we have when we are talking about the cross-browser testing, right? I'm sure you are all aware why do we need a cross-browser testing now? Though most of the industry is writing native and hybrid applications, a lot of organizations have moved to a web app because it's pretty easy to maintain and make changes, right? So there are a lot of applications, a lot of organizations, a lot of companies coming up with the mobile web apps. So these web apps, when you are releasing, we really do not know which browser the clients are using, what is the version, and then the real challenge comes is how do you test that, right? So there are a couple of challenges which we have written it here. So first one is, of course, when you have to test your application, the web application, on different versions of browsers on different platforms, right? So this image here, it can indicate that you can use either Ubuntu, Linux, Windows, or even Mac platform to access pCloudy devices, which are like Android or iOS. And then these particular users, they may be using Chrome, maybe Internet Explorer, maybe Firefox, maybe Dolphy. There are a whole lot of browsers available in the market. So how do you make sure that your web app does indeed work on that? So for that reason, you need different browsers with different versions, right? Now that's one of the key challenge we have. The second one is uh, auto update of browsers. We have seen even if you manually install some browsers on your device, uh, automatically it will get updated to certain new version whenever it is pushed from this. So you will not be able to maintain the history. You will not be able to maintain the old versions there. That's one of the challenge we are seeing in the industry. And of course, testing on the older versions, because once you upgrade to the new version, you hardly get to see the old version browsers. So again, removing and installing is a painful task there, right? So these are some of the challenges which we are actually facing when we are thinking from the cross browser testing. So we have actually made it pretty simple for our users. You can access different platforms from pCloudy, where you can access different versions of the hardwares, and you can also access different combinations of the browser. So basically with this, uh, at a single click on pCloud, if you want to see, you get different hardware software configurations of the real devices. You get different OS versions on these devices. You get different versions of browsers and different browsers available on the on these devices at a single click. You really do not have to really install anything. We will do everything for you. You just need to select the right amount of right browser to for your testing. So let's quickly see how we actually do that. So again, I'll be moving on to the next screen where we will be seeing this part. So again, I think most of you, since you are registered, you will be understanding this part here what exactly I'm doing. So I've come to the devices page, and let's say I click on Google Pixel 2, for example. So if I just click on this, you are actually acquiring a device. This is a typical connecting page, and this is how the device is acquired. Now when I acquire the device, and when you really want to do the uh, cross browser testing, you have to just click on web URL, which is on the top left side, right? You can certainly go and open the Chrome browser or the native browser which your phone has, but certainly there won't be much more browsers here, right? So you can actually click on web URL and type in the URL for your mobile web app. Let's say I want to open Amazon .in, right? So I'm just entering Amazon.in here, and from launch in browser here, we are actually showing you the list of browsers. So if I just click there, you can see at this moment we have these many browsers with these many versions, right? So if you are typically looking for new browser, maybe let's say Dolphin is there, Opera is there, UC browser is there, and Firefox and Chrome. Let's say you are looking for Safari, or you are looking for IE, or you are looking for something else, right? You have to just request us, and we will start adding those browsers in this list. So you can go and choose any browser. Let's say I want to do it on Chrome 67. I said 67, say launch, and then that's it. The platform will take care of this. Platform will install that particular browser. If it is not there on the device for you, it will open that browser. It will also enter the URL which you have mentioned in this category here, and then you can start doing testing on that particular browser. So you can see now Amazon.in is open on the browser, right? And I can do the testing here, maybe in portrait mode. If I turn it to landscape mode, you can turn it to landscape mode, and back to portrait mode if you want. And let's say you can you are actually going and doing certain testing here, and you found some you just want to see how my first page looks like, right? So you actually capture a screenshot. The moment you capture a screenshot, that particular screenshot will start appearing it here, right? Now this is first part. Now I want to see how this application behaves when I actually open the same link, Amazon.in, in some other browser. Let's take Firefox, maybe 61, the latest one, and say launch. So you can go and open different browsers and test your mobile web app on that, and see how uh, the screens are rendered. Yeah, so you can see now Firefox is launched on the device, and it's opening Amazon.in. Okay, and this is how the page looks like here. Now if I want to capture a screenshot here, again I can go and capture the screenshot. Now I do have both the screenshots which I can actually download, delete, or edit, and then once I download, I can probably see by comparing these two screenshots whether I'm getting the right placement of the things or not. You can see it, you can make out from here. There is on the Chrome browser, we are seeing getting one icon here for Amazon. However, it is not coming for Firefox. So these are the kind of things which you can actually make out from there. So this way you can actually test your mobile web app on different browsers. And to uh, tell you one more thing is this cross-browser testing is something which none of my competitors are providing. So pCloudy is one of its kind who is providing this particular feature, right? And I'm sure you're going to like this and use this more for your mobile application, mobile web application testing. All right, so we'll move on to the next feature, which is basically talking about all right. So the next feature we have now, this is pretty interesting feature which we have seen in the list of features, right? This is uh, bypassing your touch ID for your mobile apps, which typically needs, the biometric to enter into the application. Now, this is one of the biggest challenge which we are facing today in the market, right? So if you have any application which is touch enabled, which needs your biometric to get into the application, and then only you can start your application, right? Now if you want to do testing for such kind of applications on any platform which is like pCloudy, where typically you are accessing the remote device, is pretty challenging. You cannot certainly pass the touch IDs, the biometric from your system here, right? So let's see what we have done it here. We have come up with a solution which will help you to do that, typically on the cloud environment or the platform like pCloudy, where you are accessing the remote device thing, right? So this is one of the challenge with touch ID, as I was discussing it here a minute back, to ease out the process of the authenticating touch ID manually every time, right? You need to uh, give that particular biometric, the thumb impression or the finger impression to that, right? So we can actually now bypass that by verifying the touch ID internally in your application, and then you can use it, our utility there, right? So this is what we are going to see now, how we can do it now. Since this is a very secured feature which we are trying to bypass, there are certain limitations as of now which we will have to be aware of. The first and foremost is you cannot test any iOS application on the iOS devices if it is already released in the market, right? So we need an application which is in debug mode, maybe the application which is under development, and you can actually um, upload that application to the cloud drive, and then you can use that. So I'll show you how you can use it uh, in a while. So let's move on to the pCloudy again. Yeah, and all right, so I'll keep this session alive here because we have to see some more thing here. So I'm just opening one more tab with device.pcloudy.com, and I'll show you. You can go to my app data and upload the file, which is actually uh, uh, the iOS application, right? So I have already done this uploading, and you can see here we have something called authentication test.ip and thumb.ip, right? So we are going to use this application today for the sake of demonstration. So I have the intention to show you this because I have already uploaded these files over here. Now I'm going to the devices page, and let's connect to any iOS device which is available now. Okay, so iPhone 8 is available. So let's connect to this device. So I just say available, connect, and this is how the uh, device will look like. Okay, now I have to go and install the application which is under test. So I have to click on install button and select the application. So you can see a small change in this particular uh, field here now. Earlier we were just showing you the application name and say install, right? Now because of this touch ID, we have got a tick mark here which says instrument app for touch ID, right? So if I click on this, if my application is touch ID enabled and I have to use pCloudy's utility to bypass that particular feature, then I have to click on instrument app for touch ID and say install. Now by clicking that, what we will be doing is we will be installing your application on the device, of course, but we will be first doing the instrumentation, right? The instrumentation is pretty much required for us to bypass the authentication process for the uh, touch. All right, so you can see that instrumentation is done successfully. You can see this particular message over here, and after that the application will be launched completely. You can see it is still preparing. So when we say preparing, we are doing the instrumentation, then we are installing that application on the device, and then that application will be shown to you, so that you can start your testing on that. All right, so the application is done. Okay, so you can see that application is installed correctly. Now this is the first pop-up which says touch ID for Thumba, right? So This is a demo application. We will not going to see much more in this particular application, but this demonstration is just to showcase you how I'm going to get into the application if I'm not able to give my biometric to this particular device, right? So you can notice that all the features what we had earlier are still there. Towards the end, we have something called Touch ID, right? If I click on Touch ID, we have two options: either say yes or no. So you can see here that no is something which is coming soon. We are still developing that, and as a part of first release, we have released only the yes part. So there is a way where you can bypass this particular thing. So if I just click on yes, you can see now your touch ID things is bypassed and we have got into the application. You can say login successful. So this way now you should be able to test your iOS applications for Touch ID enabled applications using pCloudy remotely, right? So you not necessarily have to provide your fingerprints or something like that, but you are just passing it on to the next step. So technically, if you ask me, what we are doing is we are actually bypassing the feature where you have to provide the touch gestures. I mean the touch biometric data. So we are doing the authentication internally and sending the signal to the application saying this particular thing is done. You don't worry about that, right? So that way, this particular piece of code gets executed and this piece of functional workflow gets excluded from the testing, and you get into the application and start doing testing. Now the second part here is we are actually will be releasing an API also. So in case you want to use this feature in your automation, you should be able to do that. So when we will be releasing the API. So as of now, API is not there, but very soon the APIs will appear here for automation integration purpose too. So this is how you can actually get the Touch ID applications tested using pCloudy. And this particular feature currently we have only for the iOS and not for the Android. So we are working on the Android part, and very soon we will be coming up with the Android features also. Moving on to the next feature which we have is the Slack integration. Now if you see, the collaboration in today's world is pretty important, and there are multiple ways to collaborate with your development team or the testing team, and Slack is one of the most used tool in today's world, right? So most of our customers are actually moving, and they are, some of them are already moved on Slack, and they also want to use Slack as their official communication way to collaborate with their teammates or the inter-team developers and testers, right? So we have considered that request, and we have done the integration with the Slack. So if you are already a Slack user, you should be able to test your application on device.pcloudy.com and then get into the you can share your screenshots, you can share the information on the Slack through pCloudy. So let's quickly see how you can actually do that at pCloudy. Again, I'll be moving on to the first screen where you can see this. So I have intentionally kept my first session live still here. Let me see if we can still, yeah, we still have 19 minutes. So let's say I am actually going and opening some other application, because otherwise we will get confused here. So I'm just going and opening maybe Facebook application. Okay, let's say now this application I'm starting the testing with, and I'm facing some issue on this. Let me make it a little big so you all can see it here. Very good. Now let's say this particular application, I am not expecting something written in local language. Okay, I was expecting only English as per the specifications which I have got. So I need to show this to the developers to understand that this is an issue, right? So I can actually capture a screenshot, and that screenshot will start appearing it here, which you can of course what do you call, you can edit and make the information over there whatever you want. And if you go to the screenshots here and collaborate tab, we have something called log a bug in Jira or share to the Slack. So by so far we had logging Jira through pCloudy. Now we have something called Slack. So if I click on Slack, you will be taken to the Slack interface where you can add the channel, and there could be several other channels which you or your team would have created. Let's say I've created something called testing, and in the description you can say that, hey, I noticed the local language on the app. This is not as per specification. Okay, and then you just say I want to add the screenshots. So you can see all the screenshots here. I think the last screenshot is not captured for some time, so I'm just taking one screenshot, let's say this screenshot, and say share to the Slack. So it will upload this information to the Slack. Now you should be having the Slack account for this to upload. And if I just open my slack .com, let's say I'm just going here and opening this. I'm just entering. So I'm just entering into the Slack, and you can see that particular uh, testing, sorry, if I see, go to the channel as testing, this is the screenshot and this is the text which I have posted from there. So you can see all that things coming on the Slack automatically. Now to use Slack, of course, you have to go to, let me just go here to device.pcloudy.com, just to tell you from where you can do the authentication for the Slack. So you'll have to go to the username settings, and in the settings we do have Jira login, as you have seen it earlier. Now we have for the Slack also, so you can provide the URL for your Slack, and you can provide the access key and register. Once you do that, after that you should be able to straight away create the Slack issues from the pCloudy to your Slack account. So I'm sure this will be pretty much helpful for most of you, those who are using the Slack as one of the tool to collaborate. Let's move on to the next feature. I believe this is the uh, last one which we have, which may not take more than 2 minutes to show, is uh, something called faster uploading the apps to the cloud. So if you see it here, I have some statistics which I'm going to showcase you here. Maybe we don't have to really see that part there on the tool, but you would have when you are using this particular platform, you would have seen that you are actually need to upload the files to the cloud drive, right? So when you are actually uploading the files to the cloud drive, it was taking a little longer time. Okay, now we have actually done some changes in our algorithm to make it really look big. I mean, to reduce the time to upload the files there. We have got certain statistics here. So if you are actually uploading 92 MB of application size, to cloud drive, earlier it was taking 5 minutes. Now it actually takes 2 minutes and 22 seconds. So we have reduced that time by 52%. 9 MB file was taking 1 minute earlier. Now it is taking just 44 seconds, so 27% is saved. 45 MB file was taking 2 MB minutes, and now it is taking 1 minute. So in all, you have saved 50% of the time. And when I have tried with 21 MB file, it was taking 80 seconds earlier. Now it is taking 50 seconds, so 37% of interest. So if I just average it out, approximately 42% of the time is saved by the platform to upload and synchronize your files on the cloud. So maybe I'll quickly show you. We do have some time here, so I'll quickly show you the part here how you can actually do this and see how it is working. So if I click on my app data, now this is the file location where you are actually uploading the data, right? So if I'm just clicking on upload file and browse an app from your local system, I'm just going here and going to my location where I have kept the file. So if I just go and say APK and my app, so let's say I am selecting this DBS, or let's take a little small so it can get very quickly, maybe Momark rewards. Okay, so if I click on this and say open, you can see now this file, which was like 67 MB close to, is already uploaded, and then it says data synchronization is in progress. So I don't know whether how many of you are already aware. I think it was 6.5 MB of file. So what do you mean by data synchronization? So basically, we have um, our cloud and our data center at three different locations: India, US, and Australia. So when you are uploading a file here at um, pCloudy, you not necessarily have to upload it at the US cloud or the Australia cloud or the India cloud. For you, it's a single cloud, so you can upload it to this cloud. It will be uploaded to India cloud, and then there was a message called synchronization. So synchronization means it will actually synchronize with the database which we have in Australia and US. So earlier it was taking a whole lot of time. Now you don't have to. Earlier, if you remember, those who are previous users, they'll have to upload it to all three different locations, right? Australia separately, India separately, and US separately. Now they don't have to do that. So that is the synchronization I was talking about. But now we have again gone a step ahead. We have done a lot of improvements in our algorithms. So we have saved close to 42% of average time when you are uploading the file, and auto synchronization is happening. So this way, it is sure shot is going to save a whole lot of your time when it comes to the testing expedition, right? So yeah, these are the features which we wanted to showcase you today as a part of 5.1. So this is something which we have released so far. Just a moment, I'll quickly go on to the slide part now, and we can see. So these are the numbers which we had seen a moment before, saying, this is what the uh, time saving we are doing it in the form of while uploading your applications. So this is what we had seen in a moment back. So with this, I'm concluding the webinar today. We'll be moving on to the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop those on the GoToWebinar window, and I'll be more than happy to take those questions. By the way, if there are some new users today, I'm seeing a whole lot of participants today. So if there are some users who are not registered with pCloudy yet, they can actually register to www.device.pcloudy.com, and there are free trials available. So in case you want to uh, get the feel of the platform, you can just register with pCloudy for free. Okay, so I think I started getting the questions now. So in the interest of time, we will try to see how many questions I can cover it today. So first question is from Ashish. He's asking, is this Touch ID feature available for Android platform also? So Ashish, this Touch ID feature is not available for Android. This is what I have told while showing the feature also. It is available only for the iOS as of now. Yeah, for a surprise, we have actually started with iOS this time, because mostly we are releasing our new features with Android first and moving on to the iOS. But this time we have done in little reverse. So yeah, it is there for the iOS, and for Android we are working very soon. This feature will be available even for the Android platform. The next question is from Ramanujam. He is asking if, while doing cross-browser testing, can I actually add new browsers of my choice on my own? This is the first question from him. And the second question is, can I also do cross-browser testing on desktops? So Ramanujam, to answer your question, let me answer your first question. So you cannot configure or add the browsers of your choice on your own. But you can always get back to us. You can write a mail to our support team, and we will do that for you. So if you're looking for any specific browser and for any specific OS version, browser version, you'll have to just let us know, and we will make that thing available for you. You don't have to really do that. And even for the existing browsers, let's say we have Chrome 66 and 67, and if you need another version of that, of course the older one, you'll have to let us know and we will do that for you. And to answer your second question, whether we support the desktop browsers also, no, we are not supporting the desktop browsers cross-browser testing using pCloudy, because it is primarily a mobile device cloud. So we have support for mobility alone. But in case that's your need and you want to do the cross-browser testing on the desktop browsers, you can still use the another offering of ours, which we have something called OpKey. So using OpKey, you can actually do the cross-browser testing on the desktops directly. We do have a pile of browsers on the cloud which you can access through OpKey. I hope this answers your question. Okay, another question from Divya. So she's saying, do we have any other tools integrated like Jira and Slack? So Divya, right now we have close integration with Slack and Jira alone. But as I was mentioning earlier, we do have APIs available. Our platform is having rich APIs. So you can use those APIs to integrate the new tools or platforms which you are using, right? In case you are using Bamboo, for example, right? So you can always sorry, not Bamboo, I mean, if you are using Bugzilla, for example, for defect tracking, right? You can use our APIs and create the integrate that Bugzilla with pCloudy and use it. Now, maybe doing it at public cloud will be a little challenging for you because it is something which is globally available, but that's, you can still go ahead and do that. I hope I have answered your question. Okay, so one more question from Jane. He's asking, is it possible to use your Touch ID, bypass Touch ID feature in my automation? So Jane, I think, yeah, I did answer this question while explaining the feature itself, that you should be able to do that. Right now, if you ask me, it is not possible because the API is not released yet from our end, but we are indeed working on the API's part. So very soon that API will be available and you should be able to use this feature through our automation, through automation process also. Yeah, and then same thing will follow for the uh, Android, of course, when we will be having Android support there. Uh, okay, so what we'll do is we'll take one more last question for today's webinar, and then we'll end the session. So there are a couple of questions. Okay, now let me just take a question from Uh, Abhay, yeah. So Abhay is asking a question. Uh, I mean, of course, more this question is more of the uploading file side. So he's asking, uh, he was not aware that the files were actually uh, getting synchronized on different locations, different data centers. Will it create any problem if it is not synchronized? So Abhay, the concept on which we are working is we do have a centralized database where you are actually uploading your files, right? That cloud location is centralized here, but the whole purpose of the cloud is you should be able to access that from any location, right? So since this is our own cloud, and we to give you the best experience, to make the process pretty simple and faster, we have got a local databases or local cloud drives in all the locations, right? So even if you are uploading your file to one centralized location, we will make we will synchronize that data to the local cloud location, so that when you try to access the files, you don't have to really wait, and you can quickly do the testing on your application. So yeah, the synchronization is pretty much required. in order to save your time. I hope I have answered your question. So we do have some more time. So let me take one more last question now for today's webinar. And the question is from Neelam. Yeah, and she's asking, okay, right. So Neelam is asking a question. Is it necessary to instrument the application, iOS application, before I start my Touch ID testing? Because, yeah. So, Nilam, to answer your question, yes, it is pretty much important. It is pretty much important that your application should be in a debug mode, and you cannot do it from any of the release IPAs available in the App Store or in the market. So, first condition is you should have your application in debug mode or under development mode. Second thing is you have to instrument it. See, when we are saying technically, we are bypassing the process of touch ID, right? When you are giving the touch ID or your biometrics to the application or to the device, that information goes into the device. It gets authenticated by the device and the application, and then application gets a signal saying, this particular thing is right. I mean, it is indeed the right biometric. Then only application gets unlocked and you are get into the application. Now, if I have to put in something in between to bypass this process and let your application know that uh, this is a valid user and you can go ahead. Now, to do this, I have to do certain things in the background. I have to give certain events to your application. So this all things will not be possible if I do not instrument my application. So instrumenting the application is pretty much needed for this particular feature to work. And I believe this is the only way out at this moment if you want to uh, use any remote device cloud or remote device to test this kind of features. This is the only way out. I hope I have answered your question, and I'm sure that you will be using this particular feature for your testing. All right, guys, thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. I'm sure that these new 5.1 features will be exciting features for you, and you are going to use these features in the upcoming usage at pCloudy. Thanks again for joining this webinar. Have a great day. Bye-bye.